Alright guys, so last video we briefly went over the different basic components of the JGrasp compiler GUI, and now we're going to jump right into writing a little bit of code. So the first thing that we want to do, like you saw in the last video, we're going to go File, New, and whatever options you have here, you want to click Java, and that's going to open a new Java file for you. Okay. When we're writing, well, first let's decide what this code or this program is going to do. So when you start programming, there's one task that's usually given to you as your first task, and that's to get the thing, the program, the compiler, whatever, to return a string called filled with hello world. Okay, so basically you're going to run it and it's going to say hello world. That's all it's going to do. Very straightforward. To do this, to start any Java program, for all intents and purposes for these videos, we're going to assume that all of our files are public. And why, we'll get into that later. If you're in 1100 right now, you'll look into why you do that in 1101. But you don't need to understand why you do this. You just need to understand that you have to do this. So the first word you're going to write always is public, and you can see right away public turns purple. Okay, and that means that public is a keyword. Keywords will always turn purple in the JGrasp GUI, and keywords cannot be used as variable names. So you can't have a string called with a variable name called public, because Java will get confused. Anytime it sees a keyword, it has a set of instructions and behaviors that it associates with that word. Alright, so that's something to keep in mind. So this is a public file, and it's a class file, and we're going to call it hello world. Okay. Next, you kind of need to decide how you're going to do your formatting. Some people like doing their open bracers at the end of the line. I don't. I like doing a new line, my open bracer, and then tab over anytime I have an open bracer. Okay, so we're going to do that, and since we're only going to have this one class file doing this one task, this is going to be our main file. And so what we need to do then is write a main statement, and you're going to see a bunch of keywords are going to start up here. So again, we need to write public static void main open parentheses string 2 square brackets args close parentheses and open curly bracers. Okay, so again, you can see in the line that we just wrote, we have 3 keywords. We have public, static, and void, and then we have the word main, string, and args. Okay, so again, you'll go into more detail as to what each of these words mean and why you have to put them in your main statement. But for the time being, we're just going to leave it with just understand that you have to write this every single time you want to write a Java program, some Java code. And the only thing that's left up to you is right here, this hello world. Okay, that's the only variable that's left up to your decision, and that's the name of the file. Okay, so before we continue, we're going to make sure that we close our curly bracers. 9 times out of 10, if you have an error in your program, check your curly bracers. You probably didn't close them right. So if you hover over them, you can see that it shows the beginning and the end. Just again, make sure they're all closed. So we're going to save this one. So we'll go File, Save As. Oops. And by default, it should always, if you've closed all your bracers, give you this right here. It's the name of this class file. If it doesn't, your class file that you save must be exactly the same, and it is case sensitive to what you've written right here. Okay, but because we've gone ahead and closed up our brackets, it automatically does it for us. So we'll save, and there we go. So you can see now down the bottom here, what used to say, I think it said JGrasp 17 or Grasp 17, is now Hello World. So Java now knows what we're going to call this program. You can see it's saved in the folder over here. All right. Now, very simply, to print out messages, there's just a variation of one line of code that you need to know. It's system.out.print. All right. Open parentheses and beginning of a quote. Hello world. Close quote. Close parentheses. Semicolon. All right. So we'll go through step by step exactly what's going on in this line of code right here. Okay. So system out print. What that does is when we run it, you're going to have the run IO window down here. Anything that's a system.out.print or .print line is going to print down here in the run IO. We open the parentheses and it's going to print whatever we put in here. So you can put variable names, you can put a combination of strings, you can put a combination of strings and variables, but for this we just wanted it to print a string and we knew what we wanted the string to say. So to declare a string, you do an open of double quote, you write what you want and then you close it and you can see it turns green to represent a string of text. Close parentheses, again same with the squiggle brackets. If you hover the cursor over, you can see that both the parentheses match up. You always want to close all your parentheses. And to end every single line of code, you need a semicolon. Okay? There are very few exceptions to this. For all intents and purposes now, close it with a semicolon. Alright, so we're done this. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to run this program. But before we can run it, if I click the little running man here, you're going to see, oh, it's missing a bunch of stuff. Basically, it needs to be compiled. Okay, so this breaks down into the Java language, which is the object-oriented programming language, and machine code. Okay, and if I hit run, it's just going to try and chuck this information into my computer. And this isn't machine code; it doesn't understand this. But if we hit compile, you can see it's finished compiling down here, and I now have a class file. Okay, and the class file is what's actually the machine code. So now when I hit run, it's looking for this class file, finds the class file, and it runs actually the class file. It doesn't run what you see on the screen here. This is just for humans so that we can make sense of this. So now we'll hit run and look at that hello world. Okay, so in the next video I'll go into a little bit more detail on a few other things, such as the different variation of the system.out.print and say different escape characters and things like that that you can put into strings. Okay, so I'll see you guys next time.